A few years ago, we recognized that we were stepping into a new phase of our journey as a church family. Some of you are very familiar with that. Some of you may not be so familiar with that. And I don't have time to go into all the details, but I'm going to try and give us a quick overview. And to help us better understand this new phase, this new leg of the journey that we believe that God was taking us on, I took us back to 1804. And I talked about these two explorers, Lewis and Clark. And in 1804, how the president then, Thomas Jefferson, commissioned Lewis and Clark to find a water route that would connect the Mississippi River to the Pacific Ocean. Nations had been looking for this for hundreds of years, and if they could find the water route that connected the Mississippi River to the Pacific Ocean, then it would have political and economic ramifications. So off set Lewis and Clark, experts in navigating the waterways. So they got in their canoe. And their expectation was the unexplored West would be the same geography as the familiar East. So after 15 months of paddling from the east out west, they believed that they would finally go upstream, reach the top of the hill, and then they'd come over the bridge of it, and then they would just sail all the way down to the Pacific Ocean. Coast onto the finish line. But the truth is their reality looked very different. As they were heading west, they came to the Rocky Mountains. And what lay before them was different to what lay behind them. What lay before them was something that they weren't experts in. They'd never experienced before. It was unfamiliar, unexplored territory to them. They'd been told by Native Americans that there was going to be mountains coming their way, but they had no concept of what mountain range would look like and what that would mean. And there came a moment on their journey where they realized you can't canoe the mountains. What you were familiar with has to stop, and you have to stop paddling and learn to climb. And like Lewis and Clark, we recognized that we were in a moment, this was a few years back as a church family, where we were facing a new terrain. Arriving at a new phase of our journey as a church family. But unlike Lewis and Clark, this new phase, this new leg wasn't the Rockies Mountains, but it was a changing world, a post-COVID world, an increasingly post-Christian world, and a changing church family dynamic. And so metaphorically, we kind of arrived at a mountain range, a new terrain, new geography, and we had to stop paddling and start learning to climb. Some of you, this is familiar talk to you. So, if you want to go through the mountain range, you need different equipment. Canoe's not going to be able to get you through a mountain range. You need different equipment. Mountain climbing requires different equipment. And so in this moment, a few years back, and these are questions that all churches through all generations have wrestled with, but really asking the question, in this new terrain, in this new phase, how do we make or form disciples effectively? How do we form disciples, men, women, boys, and girls who look like Jesus, who sound like Jesus, who behave like Jesus? How do we do that effectively in this moment we find ourselves in? How do we build authentic community, a community in which people can belong, come as they are, bring themselves in this new terrain? How can we participate in Jesus' mission? Jesus is alive. Jesus has a plan and purpose for this world, and he's calling us to join him in his mission, to bring restoration to all of creation, to bring redemption, restoration, healing to his whole world. How do we participate in reaching those who are disconnected? In this changing landscape, in this changing world, in a post-COVID world, a increasingly post-Christian world, how do we join Jesus in reaching the disconnected? Those who are disconnected from their faith, those who are disconnected from the church. And so we are wrestling with this. We find ourselves at this new terrain, and we're asking this question, is we've got to get out of our canoes. And we just really felt like God was calling us to change. And many of you know this story. We kind of shift the way we do things, and we stepped into a new rhythm of life. And mountain climbing for us looked like big church, small church. And we've been doing that for a number of years, and it's a new rhythm that's forming us and shaping us. And I think it's been effective. And it's in this journey that Renewed Hope Church birthed. And again, we just recognize that God was renewing our identity as a church and renewing our purpose as a church family, and outbirthed Renewed Hope Church. And we kind of officially launched Renewed Hope Church in October 2023. And we're still discovering, Lord, okay, you're taking us on a journey. We want, Jesus, you are the head of Renewed Hope Church. This is your church. We're your body. We want to follow you. Give us wisdom. Give us sensitivity to follow after you. And in this moment, this kind of renewed identity, renewed purpose happened. And we spent, as a group, many hours praying and talking and wrestling and asking the question this: who are we? Where is God leading us? And we went through a vision process and really kind of wrestling and praying and asking these important questions. And these are pulse words that really we felt captured who we are. These are descriptive words that captured the identity and the purpose of Renewed Hope Church. Cultivate, family, kingdom, authentic, and home. Cultivate this is our method. This is what we do. And we had these subwords that came. We journey with one another. We're in the business of formation to make us look more like Jesus. We believe in discipleship. A key part of Jesus' commission to us as his church is to go and make disciples. The way we do relationship is family. And we had these subwords: diverse, participation, belonging. Our purpose is the kingdom of God, the rule and reign of Jesus Christ here in Eagan, Dakota County, Minnesota, beyond, all across the world. That's the purpose, is the kingdom of God, the expansion, the rule and reign of Jesus. To take the good news, the gospel of Jesus Christ to all those around us. And we had these subwords: mission, allegiance. Our primary allegiance is to Jesus Christ. And we have a hope because of him, a hope for the whole world. Authentic. This was a picture of our personality. Understated, honest, grounded. We want to be real. We want to be authentic. Come as you are. Jesus will meet you in that moment. And then home. This is the environment in which we want to operate. Table, safe, hospitable. And this was, again, some of the things we were unpacking, and God was affirming to us as a church family. Who are we? We put as a mission statement this. We said, we believe our mission as a church family, Renewed Hope Church, is to inspire, equip, and activate followers of Jesus to cultivate lives that faithfully obey and participate with him in renewing hope in those who are disconnected from God and the church. And so this is what happened as we were wrestling with what God was leading us into as we were arriving at this mountain range, this new terrain. And God was renewing our identity, renewing our purpose, and Renewed Hope Church came. And there's a lot more I could share with that, but that's not the purpose for this morning. But we have, for the last few years, a lot of our focus has been on small churches. And that's been good, it's been necessary, and it's played a significant role in what we've had a rhythm of big church twice a month and small church twice a month. And that's been a healthy rhythm for us. But a lot of our focus for the first few years has been on small churches. And that's good, but what we recognize at this moment is a need to switch our attention to big church. And give the same kind of thought of and ask this question. This is the question I've been wrestling with, we've been talking through as elders, is big church in its current format operating in the identity and purpose of Renewed Hope Church? Because I believe we need to switch our focus on big church to reimagine big church. And I think it's important for us to have a similar experience and capture the identity and DNA that we see in our small churches in our big church as well. And that our big church and our small church work hand in hand together to shape us and form us to look more like Jesus, to build authentic community that we can belong to, and that we can participate more effectively, that we can create spaces in which those who are disconnected from God and disconnected from the church can come and wrestle with what it means to follow with Jesus. And so when I ask this question, I say to you guys, I think it's time for us to reimagine big church. And I believe that by switching our focus and taking us and moving from this room into the fellowship hall is going to help us be more effective in operating in the DNA and identity of Renewed Hope Church. I think it's going to help us be more effective in forming disciples, building community, and participating in the mission that God has called us into more effectively. And this is not something that is shocking to us. We've done this before, we've done it a few times, but I recognize that actually it's important for us to give that attention and enlarge our creativity and our imagination and enter into a new space in order to operate in that identity and DNA of Renewed Hope Church. Some of you are probably sitting there going, sounds good, let's do it, let's think, let's be creative, let's see what it could look like. Some of you are thinking, oh my goodness, what are you talking about? I don't like what you're saying, Sam. Change is not fun, change is hard, what are you talking about? And that's okay, change is hard, right? We've been on this journey. Some of you are not bothered at all, and you're just like, all right, fine, let's do that. But I just want to take a moment and just commend you guys and say, well done. Because we've faced a lot of change. Things have looked different. Sam has started to disrupt our rhythms and our norms and our expectations when we gather, and we've been meeting in this rhythm of big church gatherings and then small church in the homes or one at this building, but it started to look different. And so I just want to say well done. Guys, we've arrived here. We've come on this journey. We have changed. We've managed to change. That's a big deal. A lot of churches, that would be a make or break moment. Change is difficult. It's hard to change when it's something that you've been doing for so long. And I also just say this, that patience is required. Next time we gather for big church, we're going to be switching over into that fellowship. Not everything's going to be exactly how we want it day one. Patience is required. We won't have it all perfectly designed, but we do want to be intentional. We don't want to just move over to the fellowship hall as it is right now. But we've got an opportunity to unleash our creativity, our imagination, and say, actually, we can design this space to look and feel and more like Renewed Hope Church. So we're probably going to have to splash some paint and put some more furniture in there, and it could be a really effective, great space to help us achieve all those things that we want to in this identity of Renewed Hope Church. So my call is, let's dream together. Let's be creative. Let's unleash that imagination of when we gather, we want to form disciples. How do we do that well? How do we do that effectively? How do we increase participation? How do we create a sense of belonging? How do we gather around table and wrestle with our faith? How do we speak into each other's lives and encourage one another? And I think by stepping into a new space, it's going to help us do that more effectively. The reason I share, I think now is the time, is that we've been kind of, right now, as most of you know, Egan Hills Church next door actually owned this building, and we leased from them. And we knew our lease was going to expire at the end of June, and we weren't sure what the future held, and it seemed like to make all the change and switch over to the fellowship hall, and when we walked through the double doors, turn right and not left, it would seem like just unnecessary amount of change if we weren't sure how long we were going to be here. But just in the last couple of months, Egan Hills have been praying a lot as a church about this property at 670 Diffley Road, and they don't want to sell this building. They just want to look for lease options. They believe that there's a purpose across these two buildings here on the corner of Diffley and Dodd. And so they've actually, they like the fact that us, Renewed Hope Church, and Sanidad Divina are operating in this building. So Sanidad Divina, a Spanish-speaking church that meets at 1 p.m. here in this building, but they also use it throughout the week. And so we've got two churches operating in this space. And they've offered a 12-month extension, lease extension for us to the end of June 2025. So it just seemed at this moment like we have a little bit, I know it's not medium term or long term, but we're just taking one step at a time. We have a bit more clarity on the short-term future of our location. And so I'm just kind of like, Lord, what are you up to? Have you ever had that question? Because, you're just saying, Lord, you're doing something. You're working among us. And there's a change. Something has changed even among the churches. So right now, there's 4 churches operating between this building and 700 Diffley Road. Us, Renewed Hope Church, we've got Sanidad Divina, who are in this building. And then next door, we've got 2 churches, Egan Hills Church and Fullness of Christ Church, which is an Ethiopian church that have been meeting in their building on the second or third floor on the Sunday mornings as well. And there just seems to be a shift, because in this moment of praying for Egan Hills, when they're asking the question, what is the future of 670 Diffley Road? They are believing actually what is happening among the 4 churches in this corner of Diffley and Dodd is a kingdom work, is part of their vision, is a mission work, and they don't want to quench it or slow it down, but actually kind of fuel the fire of what God is doing. So there seems to be some kind of the relationships are stronger than ever before. We're actually talking as churches about what it would look like if we had a prayer meeting together. So watch this space. We're probably going to come and gather and open the invitation to the 4 different churches to come. It's looking like a Friday night in May here in this building to come pray together. Just on Friday, I met the pastor of the Ethiopian church, Fullness of Christ, and I didn't realize, but he's a really good friend of Irenaeus, who has been coming here for a number of years, and they need a space in August for a evangelistic conference they're going to do. So they were looking at this space. Could they share this space with us? And then conversations I've had with Egan Hills about could we serve alongside and serve this community alongside each other. And so there's just a collaboration that we haven't really seen for a number of years. So that's something to be praying about. Something to say, okay, Jesus, you're doing something. You're at work. I know you're always at work and you're always moving, but it just seems to be something at this moment significant that you're doing. And we want to have a sensitivity. We want to have a wisdom. We want to be obedient and follow after him. So we're going to pray about that specifically in a moment. But just finally, also, I know I've talked about shifting our focus. So reimagining Big Church. And we're going to spend some time doing that. We're going to gather some leaders this week and start that conversation. We want voices and participation, and we can shape things to really be more effective in what we believe God has called us to do. But in addition to relocating to Fellowship Hall, I want us to adopt a slightly different rhythm for the summer. Just more on a practical level, summer is scattered. And so at the moment, right now, we're doing a rhythm of 2-2. So we're doing big church, small church, big church, small church. Big church twice a month, small church twice a month. But in the summer, I think it'd be more effective if we switch to a 3-1 rhythm. Getting all technical and formations, numbers. But 3 big church gatherings and 1 small church gathering. And so it just seemed again this moment, as we know that we can stay here for more than a year, that we can step into reimagine in a new space and reimagine Big Church. It just gave us an opportunity to give more time and attention. The more we spend Big Church reimagining in the Fellowship Hall, the quicker we're going to find our rhythm. So that's just something, and we're going to start doing that as of May, so next month, so you're aware. We're going to start gathering on 3 times, the first 3 weeks of the month, gathering together, and then our 4th week's going to be small church. This rhythm, we'll just do it for a few months, and let's just see. And let's ask the questions. And then the fall kind of has, a different rhythm. Just on a practical level, if small churches, if they don't have critical masses, it doesn't work as well. And so I know just people are just more transient during those summer months. So I said we're going to pray. I want us to pray, but that's kind of just give you a glimpse of where we're at, where we're going, and what we believe that God is leading us into. Let's reimagine this space, what it looked like for us to have greater participation, to gather around the table, to build that community, change some of the rhythms and the habits so we can form us into the image of Jesus more effectively, so we can create spaces that those who are lost in that mountain range, into those different terrain. How can they discover Jesus and discover a community that feels safe and that they can wrestle with their faith?